You already know more than you think. What's missing isn't knowledge, it's learning how to read the signs. Because every person leaves clues, always. And these 18 truths, inspired by Nietzsche, will show you how to find them, and more importantly, how to understand what they really mean. This is a skill no one teaches you, but the moment you learn to see, there's no going back. And this isn't a quick list or surface-level advice. It's a deep dive built step by step. If you skip ahead, you lose the depth that makes this truly work. So stay with me until the end, because when this is over, you won't just understand people better, you'll understand yourself in ways you never expected. From a young age, we're trained to trust what people say. Words become our social currency. But Nietzsche warned us not to be fooled by language. People don't speak from truth, they speak from survival, from ego, from fear. What you see on the surface of someone isn't who they are. It's the armor they've built. The person who seems overly kind may not be kind at all. They may be terrified of rejection. The one who seems strong may be falling apart inside, hoping no one notices. And the most deceptive thing about humans is this: most of the time, they don't even realize they're pretending. People are actors in a play they didn't write. Their smiles, opinions, behaviors, even their tone of voice were shaped by whatever once kept them safe. That's why most people aren't hiding something from you. They're hiding from themselves. Nietzsche once said, "Every profound spirit needs a mask." That wasn't an insult. It was a warning not to confuse the mask with the person. Here's what almost no one tells you. People leak the truth all the time. Not through words, but through cracks. In the glance that looks away. In the laugh that lasts too long. In the sudden change of subject when things get too close. Everyone wears a mask to survive. Not because they're fake, but because they're afraid. To live in society, people create a version of themselves they hope will be accepted. But no mask is perfect. It slips. And the first sign of truth is tension. Notice what makes someone uncomfortable. That's where the real person begins to appear. What someone hates in others often reveals what they're hiding in themselves. Those who constantly mock arrogance usually struggle with their own insecurity. Those who obsessively point out dishonesty are often avoiding a truth they don't want to face. What we hate most in others is often what we're afraid to admit in ourselves. So if you want to understand someone, don't just look at what they admire. Pay attention to what they criticize, and why. Silence reveals more than words ever could. When someone hesitates before answering, when they avoid certain topics, when they give short, rehearsed responses to deep questions, that silence speaks loudly. Avoiding vulnerability reveals exactly what someone fears. Excessive virtue is often vanity in disguise. Be cautious of those who loudly proclaim their purity, who constantly correct others, who are always preaching. Sometimes morality becomes a mask for superiority. And the louder the virtue signaling, the more likely something is being hidden behind it. Real goodness doesn't need applause. People don't lie to you first. They lie to themselves. Phrases like, "I'm fine," "I'm over it," "I don't care," are rarely meant to deceive others. They're lies repeated so often that the person begins to believe them. Nietzsche didn't see self-deception as evil, but as a defense. A way to keep functioning in a painful world. So when someone's story doesn't quite add up, don't assume they're trying to fool you. Realize they've been fooling themselves for much longer. That's where the truth leaks out, in the inconsistencies. Where someone feels superior, there's often a hidden sense of inferiority. Those who constantly remind you of their achievements often fear they're not enough. Those who casually put others down are usually afraid of being overlooked. Real confidence doesn't compete. It simply exists. If someone needs to dominate, control, or constantly prove themselves, look deeper. Behind the posture of power, you'll often find someone afraid of not being seen. Reading people isn't about judging them. It's about understanding them. Someone who interrupts constantly may not be arrogant. They may be afraid of being forgotten. Someone who posts happiness non-stop may be silently asking for help. When someone says, "I'm fine," while avoiding eye contact, listen to the body, not the sentence. Use this awareness not to gain advantage, but to develop compassion. Because the more clearly you see someone, the harder it becomes to hate them. People aren't hard to read. They're just afraid to be seen. And if you pay attention, you've already witnessed this. The discomfort when a belief is challenged. The shift in tone when a topic gets too close. The nervous laugh that doesn't match the words. These moments aren't mistakes. They're clues. Most human behavior is driven by fear. Fear of abandonment, fear of rejection, fear of failure, fear of losing value. People rarely act from pure desire. They act to avoid loss. So if you want to understand someone deeply, stop asking what they want. Ask what they're afraid of losing. When someone criticizes constantly, don't focus on the target. Focus on the speaker. Constant criticism is almost always a reflection of inner pain. Those who mock emotional people often fear their own emotions. Those who judge appearances are often at war with themselves. Judgment is rarely about the other person. It's a confession in disguise. There's also the type of person who seems endlessly confident, always in control. But watch closely. The tension in their face, the need to be right, the defensiveness under pressure. Excessive confidence often hides guilt, fear of exposure, fear of being truly seen. Real peace doesn't perform. When someone seems too confident, don't be intimidated, be curious. Exaggeration also reveals the truth. Someone who says, "I don't care what anyone thinks," usually cares deeply. Someone who claims to be happy all the time usually isn't. Exaggeration is the ego trying to drown out doubt. The more absolute the statement, the deeper the insecurity beneath it. The real question is never what's being said, it's what's being silenced. The desire for control reveals even more. Those who need to control everything often feel that something inside them is out of control. Rigidity isn't strength, it's fear. The harder the outer shell, the more fragile the inner self. And today, this is impossible to miss. The louder the performance, the emptier the core. The constant need to be seen, validated, admired rarely comes from wholeness. It comes from the fear of not being loved without the show. Someone who truly knows themselves doesn't need to be watched. They're already complete. If someone's life looks like a constant performance, remember this. It's not power, it's need. Over time, something begins to shift in you. You walk into a room and start noticing patterns before words. You see someone interrupting and recognize the fear of being forgotten. You see someone bragging and sense the invisible wound underneath. You're not reading minds, you're reading masks, and that comes with responsibility. Because once you learn to see people clearly, you can't unsee it. You begin to realize how many people suffer quietly behind polished smiles. Reading people isn't about gaining leverage, it's about offering understanding. When you see the child behind the critic, the fear behind the aggressor, the guilt behind the arrogance, you don't become weaker, you become unshakable. But there's something even deeper. People don't speak from logic, they speak from pain. Behind every argument is a wound. People build beliefs from what hurt them and then use logic to justify those beliefs. If you want to understand someone's worldview, don't just ask what they believe. Ask what they never want to feel again. When you see this, opinions stop feeling like attacks. Arguments stop feeling like threats. You stop reacting and start understanding. How someone reacts to weakness reveals who they truly are. Don't watch how they treat powerful people. Watch how they treat those who can't fight back. True strength isn't domination, it's restraint. Those who mock vulnerability fear their own. Those who punish mistakes harshly were often never allowed to make any. But the person who can witness weakness without judgment, who can sit with sadness without running away, who chooses compassion when control is available, has already won the inner war. Those who fear being forgotten often chase attention. The ignored child becomes the overcompensating adult. The noise isn't vanity, it's fear of silence. When someone feels like too much, don't judge too quickly. Ask what they're afraid will happen if they're not enough. Sometimes attention isn't ego, it's a cry for love. The people we attack most fiercely are often the ones we envy the most. Not because we hate them, but because we see in them something we abandoned in ourselves. Envy is unspoken desire. When you recognize this, petty hatred loses its power. And when you see it in yourself, you become free. People don't just act from belief, they reenact their childhood. Those who were never heard become those who never listen. Those punished for expressing emotion become cold, logical, detached. Those who had to earn love learn to perform for affection, even when it hurts. Adult behavior is childhood biography in motion. Behind every adult is a child still trying to feel safe.
And patterns reveal everything. People don't always know how to say where they hurt, but they show it, again and again. The one who disappears when things get close. The one who overworks to avoid stillness. The one who flirts with everyone, but connects with no one. None of this is random. These are silent confessions, ways of protecting themselves. When you learn to listen to patterns instead of words, the truth appears before it's spoken. And something powerful happens. You stop taking everything personally. You stop judging. You start understanding. You stop being a weapon and become a mirror. And that, more than any technique, is what makes you powerful. Because in the end, you're not just reading people, you're remembering who you are. Now take a moment. Everything you've heard here isn't only about others, it's about you, your patterns, your fears, your old wounds. Because the more clearly you see others, the more clearly you see yourself. This isn't the end, it's the beginning of a new way of seeing. Nietzsche didn't want us to merely observe, he wanted us to awaken, to realize that everything we judge in others is something we carry, and everything we admire is something we long to become. If this resonated with you, if something here felt uncomfortably familiar, share it in the comments. Let's build something honest in a world full of masks. And if this spoke to you, stay with the channel. This is only the beginning of learning to see what's hidden and becoming who you truly are.